We're going to print orthodontic models on our EPAX 10X 4K mono, and we're going to use Chitubox 64. So we're going to open our software. And we're going to verify settings. So you want to make sure that you have it set up for your EPAX 10X with the appropriate resolution, the X and Y. You're also going to want to check the sizing that's correct. And then also what material you're going to be using. There may be different settings for different materials. You may choose to print at 100 microns, and that's usually what we do when we're using our orthodontic models for retainers or for aligners. You may be using 50 microns for other types of appliances, and then make sure you have the appropriate setting based on what resin you're going to be using. The next step is you need to import your files. Usually we find that we can fit 5 to 6 models, and we like to print horizontal. We find it's much more accurate, it's much easier. And if you want to maximize the number of models you can fit on that platform, considering using a horseshoe without a base. That way you can nest them inside. These test files that we're going to be using, though, are going to have bases, and I'll show you how you can arrange those. Oops, there we go. Now, if you select all those models will move at the same time. But we're going to need to rotate these models. So I like to do all the rotations first. And I like to put one of the edges against the edge of the platform so that they're easier to remove. And then we can move them into position. You want to make sure if you go beyond what's printable, you'll be alerted. You also want to watch to make sure, even though the base is within the printable area, if you have really proclined teeth, particularly in the upper incisors, you want to make sure that they're not off of that printable area. Let's turn that one the other way. I'm sorry, I know most people are much quicker at this part than I am. And we can even find we've got some additional space, so let's grab another model. Let's add a maxillary model. And we're just going to arrange them to make sure they're all in a printable space. We want to make sure that they're not touching one another. We also want to take a look underneath, and you want to see this green surface. If you don't, that means you're not completely on the platform. And if you do have that, that error, let me show you how you can fix it. If you go over to the rotate button and you click on that, it's called flatten by face. Wherever you touch next, it will make it the bottom. So if I ever flip it over and I don't see a completely green surface, I'm going to flatten by face, and then we'll make sure that I'm on the print platform. If you maybe have an irregular model and you're not sure you're going to be able to get it flat, you can go over and you can use supports if you'd like, or also create a raft if you'd like. Or sometimes a trick that we will use as well is we will go and do a negative Z. And what negative Z does is it actually puts it, you will see the one that was highlighted, how it puts it below the platform. So whatever model you're attempting to move is the one that you're going to highlight. Maybe if you want to do all of them, just select all, and then you can move them all. So it's really easy to use. Other things you can look for too, if you want to use the slider, it's going to let you see the layers and the exposure with each layer. And so we're going to make sure that they all appear. Particularly that first layer. If you go number 1, you should see your base or the outline of your model. Now, other things you may choose to do that we don't do is there's different commands toward the top. You could hollow a model if you want to save on resin. Keep in mind when you hollow a model, you're also going to want to dig a hole too, so that uncured resin can escape. Now once we have our models, we've verified that they're on the platform, that everything is inside the printable area, and none of them are touching each other. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to slice, because once you have this model, the slicing is going to tell you each layer. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to slice that. And now you can go and review to what that exposure pattern is going to look like. It'll tell you the number of layers that you have. And it'll tell you the volume that you're going to need for that print job. And also will tell you the time. Now, it'll also show you some of the basic settings that you have as well, so it's another chance to verify. And then you're going to need to save that. So to save, and you can pick the location where you want to save. For us, we like to save to a flash drive, because then we can directly take that flash drive to the printer. So we'll select our flash drive, hit save, and then it will generate that model onto the flash drive. At that point, all we need to do is to eject our flash drive, and we're ready to go to the printer. So we're ready to print our files. So we're going to insert our flash drive, make sure our printer is on. We also want to stir our resin. We're going to make sure that our build platform is secure. We also want to make sure that the tank is secure. And we also want to verify that we have enough resin in the tank to complete our print job. We're then going to go ahead to print. We'll see our file displayed. We're going to select the file we want to print. And then we're going to go ahead and start our print job. So when you look at the LCD screen, you should be able to see the outline of your models. It'll also tell you how far along you are in your print job. Okay, our print job is finished. So we're going to remove the platform. And then if there's any excess resin, we're going to let that run off. And you can see our printed models. Now we want to remove our prints. We want to use a straight edge, either a spatula, a paint scraper. We also want to go from the back end or from the front. Avoid going from the side because you can actually break the arch. So we're going to gently tap it. And then we'll do that for the rest of our models. You want to make sure that there aren't any cured remnants on there. Don't worry if the build platform gets scratched, but make sure that there aren't any pieces sticking up, any sharp parts. If there are, you're going to want to sand those down so you have a smooth surface, but don't worry about these little edges or little marks. Now we're going to post-process. We need to remove the uncured resin. So we're going to place it in our IPA, and then we're going to place it on an orbital shaker. There's other ways that you can do this as well. There's other systems that are available, but what you really are trying to do is you got to remove any uncured resin before you finish the post-processing. Now we're just going to use compressed air. So the final step in post-processing will be the final cure. Now, different materials will have different recommendations for this final cure, and it can affect the physical properties of your material, so make sure you know what is recommended for the material you're using.